Back then, I was 27, young enough to dream recklessly, old enough to know dreams cost blood. I worked long nights at a design firm, chasing deadlines, chasing meaning, chasing her. Her name was Elena. Even her name sounded like a promise. We met at a friend's birthday party, though met is too small a word. It felt like gravity had noticed us at the same time. She had this way of speaking, soft but with intention, like she wasn't just talking to you, but through you. I remember her eyes, green, quiet, but dangerous. You don't realize what kind of woman you're dealing with until you see your reflection in her pupils, and it's not the man you hope to be. I was drawn to her the way flames are drawn to oxygen. She was ambition dressed in silk, the kind of woman who walks into a room and makes men forget who they were before she arrived. And I was no exception. At first, she admired my hunger. She said it reminded her of who she used to be before the world softened her. I thought that meant we were the same, two souls trying to escape mediocrity. I didn't know it meant I was just another story she'd one day grow tired of. We fell fast. Or maybe I fell while she watched. Either way, I built my days around her. Her texts, her moods, her silences. I started missing deadlines at work, stopped calling friends back. My world began to shrink until it fit inside the outline of her body. But love, when it's one-sided, isn't love. It's worship, and worship always ends in sacrifice. The cracks started small, the kind you only notice when it's too late to fix. She'd forget to reply for hours. Cancel plans last minute. Laugh at my ideas like they were childish daydreams. "You think too small," she'd say, smiling like she was helping. And I believed her. I thought she saw potential in me. What she really saw was control. Then came the night that split my life in half. We were at her apartment, rain tapping against the glass, the city asleep below. I told her I wanted to quit my job and start my own company. Her eyes didn't light up. They hardened. She laughed. Soft at first, then sharp. "Start your own company? You can't even manage your own bills, Daniel." That moment, that single line, did something to me. It was like she reached into my chest and unplugged the light. I smiled to hide the wound, but something deep inside me had already started to die. I didn't argue. I just stared at her, at the woman who once told me I made her feel safe. Now she looked at me like I was a failed experiment. She ended it that night, said she needed someone more stable, someone who already was the man I was still trying to become. She thought she was being honest. She thought she was setting herself free, but she didn't realize she was awakening something I didn't know existed. The quiet, patient, merciless version of myself that had been waiting in the dark. When she left, she took my peace with her, but she left behind something stronger. Hunger. There's a kind of quiet that follows heartbreak. It doesn't scream. It lingers, like the echo of a funeral bell you can't unhear. The days after she left felt unreal. I'd wake up expecting her beside me, only to find the cold indentation of where she used to sleep. Her scent still haunted the sheets. Lavender and lies. I checked my phone 100 times a day, waiting for a message that would never come. You tell yourself she'll realize she made a mistake, that she'll remember the man who held her when the world forgot her name. But that realization never comes. Because when someone decides you're not enough, every memory becomes ammunition to justify their escape. Weeks passed. She posted pictures of herself online, glowing, laughing, alive. And I looked like the ghost of a man still waiting for a train that had already left. Pain makes you desperate. It makes you scroll through her photos at 2 a.m., zoom in on her smile, trying to see if it's real. It makes you imagine her hands on someone else's skin, her voice whispering another man's name. And then, slowly, it kills the boy who loved her. I saw her one evening at a cafe downtown. She was with someone new, taller, confident, the kind of man who walks like the world owes him interest. She looked happy, and I realized something terrifying. She was happy, not because of him, but because she was free of me. It hit me then. Love isn't destroyed by betrayal. It's destroyed by realization. When you finally understand you were never truly loved, only used. I went home that night and stared at my reflection. The man in the mirror wasn't broken. He was hollow, empty in a way that begged to be filled with something darker. That was the night I stopped chasing closure. Because closure is a lie people tell themselves to feel in control of their own suffering. What I wanted wasn't peace. What I wanted was Rebe. There's a moment, somewhere between heartbreak and healing, where a man decides who he will become. Most never make it past the pain. They drink, they fade, they learn to smile again, half alive, half forgetting. But I wasn't built to forget. I was built to remember. Her rejection had burned me down to the roots, and from those ashes, something colder began to grow. I no longer wanted love. I wanted power, the kind that made people whisper your name even when you weren't in the room. I didn't smile anymore, didn't laugh, didn't dream. Dreams were for men who still had hearts. I had traded mine for something far more valuable. Clarity. My company grew faster than I could comprehend. But it wasn't luck. It was war. Every meeting, every deal, every partnership, I treated like a battlefield. Where others saw opportunity, I saw conquest. Because when you've been humiliated, every success feels like vengeance. But revenge has a way of whispering your old name. And sometimes, late at night, I'd hear it. Her voice. That soft, disinterested tone she used when she was already half gone. It haunted me more than the silence ever did. I told myself I was over her. But every new milestone felt like I was showing her, not the world, what I had become. I wasn't chasing greatness. I was chasing validation. And that's when I realized the truth. She still owned me. Not in love, in memory. So I went deeper. Past success, past ambition, past redemption, into the part of the human soul where obsession becomes identity. I started studying people, not for empathy, for leverage. I learned what made them tick, what made them break, what made them beg. I could see through smiles, through lies, through masks. I understood manipulation because I'd been manipulated by love itself. My team feared me, not because I shouted, but because I didn't need to. I'd stare at someone for I didn't speak of the past. I didn't need to. The air between us did all the talking. Every success, every scar, every sleepless night. It all stood there in the space where love used to live. As we spoke about the project, she kept glancing at me, searching for traces of the man she left behind. He wasn't there. He had burned away long ago. By the time the meeting ended, she looked defeated, quietly, beautifully defeated. And for a brief, terrible moment, I felt pity. Then I remembered the boy staring at a phone that would never ring, the man humiliated in his own lover's eyes, and the pity vanished. Because mercy is for those who didn't enjoy your pain. She did. That was the night I decided revenge wouldn't be loud. It would be elegant, patient. I wouldn't destroy her. I'd remind her of everything she gave up, of the man she could have stood beside, if she hadn't mistaken love for weakness. Revenge doesn't always come with fire and fury. Sometimes it arrives in silence, dressed in grace, wearing the face of forgiveness. That's what made mine beautiful. Because by the time she realized what it was already too late. After our meeting, she started reaching out. Emails at first. Polite, professional. Then messages, longer ones. She'd ask about the project, but her words always drifted elsewhere, toward nostalgia, toward regret. I could read it between the lines, the tone of someone trying to rebuild a bridge they once burned with pride. I didn't reply right away. I let time do what pain couldn't. Teach her the value of silence. Because silence is the cruelest weapon. It forces a person to sit with their own thoughts. And most people don't survive their own echo. When I finally responded, I was careful, measured, polite but distant, the way you'd speak to a stranger wearing a familiar face. She asked to meet again and I agreed. We met at a rooftop, at a seat, and I didn't interrupt. I let her talk until the silence became unbearable. Then I looked at her, really looked, and said, "Do you remember what you told me once? That I'd never make it on my own?" Her lips parted, but no sound came out. I leaned back, my voice calm, almost kind. "You were right. The man you knew didn't make it. He died the night you walked away." She blinked, tears hiding behind pride. I smiled. "The one sitting in front of you is what rose from his grave." And that was the truth. She hadn't broken me. She'd built me. Through fire, through rejection, through humiliation. She'd created a man who no longer needed her approval, or anyone's. As the night deepened, she began to confess how her relationship after me had fallen apart, how she'd lost herself trying to chase the life she thought she deserved, how no one ever loved her the way I did, deeply, selflessly, completely. It should have felt like victory. It didn't, because revenge, when it finally arrives, never tastes the way you imagine. It's not sweet, it's hollow. I realized that the most powerful form of vengeance isn't to make them suffer. It's to make them see, to hold a mirror to their choices until they flinch at their own reflection. When the meeting ended, she hugged me, hesitant, trembling. Her perfume still smelled like yesterday. But to me, she was already a stranger. She texted me later that night, said she wanted to see me again, said she'd been thinking about us, about how things ended, about what could have been. But the man she wanted no longer existed. She had buried him herself. I didn't reply. Not that night, not ever again, because some messages deserved to be read in silence. Weeks turned into months. She tried again, a few calls, a few letters, even an apology. But by then, I'd already learned the secret truth about revenge. You don't destroy them by hurting the... I sometimes wonder what she tells people when my name comes up. Does she say I was the one that got away, or the one she destroyed? Maybe she tells them I changed, that success made me cold, distant, unreachable. But deep down, she knows the truth. I didn't change. I simply became what her betrayal demanded I become. Because some people teach you love, others teach you survival, and she taught me resurrection. Years passed. The world moved on, but my mind never really left that night. The night she ended me without realizing she'd just begun my story. I built an empire out of ashes. I turned rejection into religion, and every failure, every humiliation, became the bricks that built my immortality. Immortality doesn't mean living forever. It means being remembered, even by the ones who tried to forget you. And I knew, no matter how far she ran, I lived rent-free inside her conscience. I became her sleeplessness, her what if, her ghost in every mirror. People think revenge ends when the other person suffers. It doesn't. It ends when you stop needing them to. That's the day you become untouchable. I remember the last time I saw her, purely by accident years later. It was at an airport lounge of all places. I was heading to Dubai for a conference. She was sitting by the window, reading something she wasn't really reading. Her face had changed, still beautiful, but heavy with stories she didn't tell. When her eyes lifted and met mine, everything went still. She smiled, softly, almost hopefully. But I didn't walk over. I didn't owe that ghost a conversation. I simply nodded, a polite nod, like one stranger to another. And in that moment, I saw it. The realization in her eyes that I was truly gone. That the man she betrayed had become a legend she could no longer touch. I walked away, not out of pride, but out of peace. Because for the first time, not a man seeking vengeance, but a man who embodied it. And that's the strange irony of betrayal. It kills you only once, but your rebirth lasts forever. Now, when I look back, I don't feel hatred. I feel gratitude. Cold, quiet, powerful gratitude. Because she gave me the one gift no lover ever could. The death I needed to discover who I really was. They say immortality is a myth, that everything fades, faces, names, feelings. But they're wrong. Some stories don't die. They echo, and mine was carved into time the day she decided to erase me. I no longer seek forgiveness. I no longer seek justice. I exist beyond those fragile human needs. I live in the spaces between her regrets. I breathe in the silence of her memories. I am the proof that pain can evolve into power, that heartbreak can outlive even love itself. Sometimes late at night, when I stand by my penthouse window and watch the city lights flicker below, I whisper to the darkness, "You thought you ended me, but you only gave me something greater than life." A pause, a faint smile, a truth only I can hear. You made me immortal.